Sometimes the foods we've trusted for years turn out to be quietly working against us. In this video, I want to gently walk you through 6 vegetables that might be silently hurting your heart, and how just a few small changes can make a real difference in how you feel every day. Let me start with something you've probably had on your plate 1,000 times: canned corn. It looks harmless, doesn't it? Sweet, soft, and often paired with chicken or tossed into a salad. But the problem isn't the corn itself. It's what's hiding inside that can slowly wear down your heart. Most canned corn is loaded with sodium and sometimes even sugar. For older adults, that combination is a hidden troublemaker. As we age, our kidneys don't filter sodium as efficiently, and our blood vessels aren't quite as flexible. That means salt can cause your blood pressure to climb without much warning. You may not even feel it at first, just a little more, tired than usual, maybe a mild headache or swelling in your feet by the end of the day. But your heart is working harder than it should, quietly under strain. That's the part we don't see until it becomes something serious. I remember a man named Harold, 72, from Nebraska. He was one of those folks who always said, "I don't eat junk, Doc, I eat my vegetables." And he did, but every night he had canned corn as a side dish. It was a habit he picked up in the 80s and just never stopped. When he came to see me, his blood pressure was spiking in the evenings. He thought it was just stress or maybe his age catching up with him. But when we looked closer, we found his sodium intake was through the roof, and most of it was from that little can of corn on his plate every night. Another patient, Ethel, 69, from Georgia, had swelling in her ankles and trouble sleeping. She was eating healthy, or so she thought, until we looked at her pantry. Several shelves were stacked with vegetable medleys, most of them canned. When we switched her to frozen vegetables instead and taught her how to steam them, her symptoms started fading within weeks. It's stories like theirs that stay with me. Because it's not about blaming yourself, it's about noticing. Once you see the pattern, you can shift it. One of the simplest things you can do today is swap canned corn for frozen or fresh corn when it's in season. If fresh isn't available, go with frozen. It's picked and packed at peak ripeness, often with no salt or sugar added. Steam it lightly. Add a small pat of unsalted butter or olive oil, and you'll still get the comfort of corn without the hidden risks. And if you're used to canned because it's easy, just take a moment to read the label. You might be surprised how much salt is really in there. What I want you to remember is this: you don't have to give up the foods you love. You just learn to meet them where your body is now. Wiser, more sensitive, more in need of kindness. Think of it like adjusting your shoes to fit better over time. Your heart deserves that kind of care too, and you're more than capable of giving. Now let's talk about something that's often seen as just a crunchy little extra: pickles. I know they might not seem like much. A few slices on a sandwich, a spear with lunch, maybe a little snack straight from the jar. But here's the thing: pickles are loaded with sodium, and that salt can sneak up on you fast. For someone in their 60s or 70s, high sodium isn't just a number on a nutrition label. It's something that directly affects blood pressure, fluid retention, and how hard your heart has to work just to get through the day. When you're older, your body doesn't handle excess salt the same way it did at 40. Your kidneys slow down, your blood vessels stiffen a bit, and your heart picks up the slack. That constant quiet strain adds up, and for many folks it's happening every day with foods they don't even think twice about, like pickles. Let me tell you about Robert, a 76-year-old retiree from Missouri. He came into my office complaining of tightness in his shoes every afternoon. Not pain exactly, just a feeling of puffiness, especially in his ankles. He figured it was arthritis or maybe just aging. But when we took a closer look at his diet, one thing stood out. He was eating pickles with every lunch. Not because he craved them really, but out of habit. They were always on his plate growing up, and they still made him feel like the meal was complete. We switched him to sliced cucumbers with a splash of vinegar and dill. Just a simple swap. Within 2 weeks, his swelling started to ease. His shoes fit better. He slept better too. No more waking up with restless legs or that heavy, full feeling. Then there's Dorothy, 70, from North Carolina. She was trying to eat healthier after a minor heart scare and cut out red meat and soda, but she kept a jar of pickles on her kitchen counter. I didn't even think they counted. she told me. But when we checked her blood pressure numbers, they were still high. Once she realized how much sodium was in those little green spears, she was shocked. She swapped them for cherry tomatoes and celery sticks with a pinch of lemon. Within a month, her blood pressure dropped, and her energy came back in a way that surprised even her. What often helps is finding something with that same crunch and zip, but without the salt bomb. Sliced cucumbers with lemon juice, raw bell peppers, or radishes with a sprinkle of vinegar can give you that satisfying bite, without flooding your body with sodium. If you really miss that pickle taste, look for low-sodium versions and enjoy them once in a while, not every day. You don't have to give up flavor to protect your heart. Sometimes it's just about waking up to the quiet ways salt has crept in and deciding to treat your body like the precious thing it is. You deserve food that energizes you, not food that quietly steals your strength. And once you feel the difference, you won't want to go back. Here's one that surprises a lot of people: French fries and other forms of fried potatoes. They're familiar, comforting, and for many tied to happy memories, family dinners, weekend outings, or just a quick bite at a favorite diner. But beneath that golden, crispy exterior hides a combination that's especially hard on an aging heart: refined starch, salt, and unhealthy fats. When potatoes are fried, they absorb large amounts of oil, often the kind high in trans fats or heavily processed oils. Those fats raise bad cholesterol, LDL, lower the good kind, HDL, and contribute to plaque buildup in arteries. Add the salt, sprinkled on top, and you've got a heart struggling with pressure, inflammation, and reduced blood flow. For people over 60, that kind of daily burden can quietly add up, until one day, it doesn't stay quiet anymore. I once worked with Leonard, a 74-year-old from Indiana. He loved his fries. Every Friday was burger and fries night, a tradition he started when his kids were young. After his wife passed, he kept it up out of comfort, but over time, he noticed he was getting winded more easily. Climbing stairs took longer. He had some weight gain, sure, but he figured that was normal. When he came in for a routine checkup, his cholesterol was sky high, and his blood pressure had crept into dangerous territory. We talked through his habits, and those fries came up quickly. He switched to baked potato wedges with olive oil and herbs. Still crisp, still satisfying, but miles better for his heart. Within months, his numbers improved, and he told me he felt lighter, not just in his body, but in his mood. And then there's Brenda, 68, from California. She lived alone and often relied on takeout, fries included. She didn't think it mattered since she only ate one small portion at a time, but her triglycerides were elevated and she was waking up feeling sluggish and foggy. We helped her build a simple routine: bake sweet potato slices at home, add rosemary and paprika, and skip the takeout. It became a new kind of comfort food, one that didn't hurt her heart. She even started sharing the recipe with her neighbor across the hall. One of the easiest ways to shift this habit is to trade. Frying for baking or air frying. Cut your potatoes into wedges. Toss them with a teaspoon of olive oil and your favorite herbs, and roast them in the oven until golden. You still get that crispy bite, but without the heavy oils and excess salt. Sweet potatoes are also a great option. They have fiber and antioxidants your heart will thank you for. You don't need to let go of what you love, just meet it in a better form. Think of it like tuning a favorite old song to sound clearer on a new radio. The joy stays, but now it plays without static. Your heart is listening, and every better choice is a way to tell it, I'm here and I care. This one might come as a surprise: raw cabbage. Now, I'm not saying cabbage is bad. In fact, it's packed with fiber, vitamin C, and other good stuff. But here's where it gets tricky. When eaten raw, especially in large amounts, cabbage can cause digestive discomfort in many older adults. As we age, our digestion slows down. The natural enzymes that used to break down complex fibers start working less efficiently. Raw, cruciferous vegetables like cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower can create gas, bloating, and pressure in the abdomen. And while that might sound harmless, that physical stress can affect sleep, energy levels, and even how your heart feels day to day. It's not unusual for older folks to experience rapid heartbeats, shortness of breath, or discomfort in the chest, and not realize it's coming from digestive strain. It's all connected. The body doesn't keep systems in separate boxes. What happens in your gut can ripple out to your heart. One patient I remember well was Nancy, a 70-year-old retired teacher from Vermont. She was proud of her healthy habits, walked every morning, drank plenty of water, and made big, colorful salads every day. But she came to me feeling fatigued, with a fluttery heartbeat that came and went. She'd had tests done and nothing serious had shown up, so we started looking at her day-to-day diet, and that's when I saw it. Lots of raw cabbage, kale, and raw broccoli, twice a day, every day. Nancy was surprised. "It's just salad," she said. But when we switched her to lightly steamed veggies and introduced warm soups instead of cold bowls, her symptoms eased up. Her energy came back, and that fluttery feeling faded. There's also Gerald, 73, from Ohio. He loved coleslaw, had it with nearly every dinner, thinking it was the healthiest part of the meal. But he struggled with bloating and chest tightness, especially at night. We replaced the raw coleslaw with sautéed cabbage and apple slices, cooked with a bit of olive oil. Within a couple of weeks, he called me to say he was sleeping through the night again, no more waking up with pressure in his chest. What often works best is cooking cabbage just enough to soften the fibers while keeping the nutrients. Try gently sautéing it with a little garlic and olive oil, or steaming it until tender. It still tastes fresh, but it's much easier on your system. Adding a bit of apple or carrot can bring sweetness and balance the flavor without needing extra salt or sauces. Your body changes as the years go by, and that's not a weakness. It's just nature asking you to listen a little closer. The goal isn't to stop eating healthy foods, but to prepare them in ways that support how your body works now. When you adjust gently, you find comfort again, not just in your meals, but in how you feel each day. That comfort is something you've earned. Here's one that really surprises people: celery. It's always been painted as a health food. Low in calories, crunchy, clean, something you dip in peanut butter or add to soup. And yes, celery does have fiber and a few helpful vitamins, but it also has something else: naturally high levels of sodium. Not the kind that's added in processing, but the kind that grows right in the plant. And for seniors, that sodium can build up faster than you think. When your kidneys slow down with age and your blood vessels are less flexible, even small amounts of natural salt can raise your blood pressure or cause fluid retention. If you're already dealing with heart issues, that extra sodium can be like a slow drip adding stress to your system. It's subtle, but over time, it matters more than you might expect. Let me tell you about Roy, 75, from Arizona. He was doing everything by the book. Ate light, walked daily, and made his own green juice every morning. Celery was always the base. But he couldn't figure out why his blood pressure was staying high. His doctor had adjusted meds, cut out restaurant meals, and even reduced caffeine. Nothing seemed to help. When I looked at his food log, it hit me: daily celery juice, sometimes 2 cups. Roy had no idea celery carried that much sodium. Once he cut it back and switched to spinach and cucumber for his juices, his pressure began to level out. It took just a couple of weeks to see a difference. Then there was Irene, 71, from Florida. She loved snacking on celery sticks throughout the day. It was her go-to instead of chips or crackers, but she started noticing swelling in her hands and a kind of tightness in her rings. She thought maybe it was arthritis flaring up. Turns out she was eating up to 10 celery sticks a day. That's more sodium than she realized. We reduced it to just a few stalks per week and added more variety, like jicama, bell pepper, and baby carrots. Not only did the swelling go down, but her energy came back and she stopped waking up feeling puffy. One simple thing that often helps is rotating your snack vegetables. Instead of reaching for celery every time, try sliced cucumber with a little lemon juice or some crunchy bell pepper strips. If you still want a bit of that celery taste, keep it as an occasional ingredient, maybe in soups or stews where it's diluted and cooked down. And if you're juicing, use it sparingly and balance it with lower sodium vegetables like zucchini or parsley. There's a kind of wisdom in noticing how your body feels after something as small as a snack. That's not overthinking. That's care. You don't need to give up celery forever. You just need to remember that even good foods can ask too much from a body that's already doing its best. A small shift can give you big comfort, and your heart will feel the relief. The last one might be the sneakiest of all: canned tomatoes, especially in the form of sauces and pastes. Now, tomatoes themselves are wonderfully heart-friendly. They're full of antioxidants like lycopene, vitamin C, and fiber. But when they're processed into canned sauces, pastes, or soups, the story changes. These products are often loaded with added salt, sugar, and preservatives to enhance shelf life and flavor. And for older adults, this can spell trouble. High sodium levels contribute directly to elevated blood pressure, and for someone already managing hypertension or heart disease, a bowl of tomato soup or a plate of pasta with store-bought sauce can quietly push the body into overdrive. It's not just about taste. It's about the cumulative impact of everyday choices. And since tomato products are often seen as healthy, people rarely question what's in them. I remember Evelyn, 70, from Pennsylvania. She was proud of eating at home more often, skipping takeout and cooking her own meals. Pasta night was her favorite, a simple bowl with tomato sauce and garlic. But she was coming to me with fatigue, chest pressure, and digestive discomfort. She had no idea it could be her sauce. When we checked the label together, it had over 600 milligrams of sodium per half cup, and she was using a full cup. Add the cheese and a slice of garlic bread, and it was more salt than she needed in a day. We worked on a homemade version: fresh tomatoes, a bit of olive oil, herbs, and within a few weeks her symptoms eased. She felt lighter, more rested, and even said her sleep improved. Then there's Marvin, 73, from Michigan. He loved his morning tomato juice. "It wakes me up better than coffee," he joked. But after a few months of feeling jittery and dealing with irregular heartbeat, he brought in the bottle. One serving had over 800 milligrams of sodium, and he was drinking too. Once we cut back and found a low-sodium version and diluted it with water and lemon, his heart rhythm returned to normal, and the restlessness stopped. One of the best things you can do is make your own simple tomato sauce. It's easier than it sounds. Just blend a few ripe tomatoes, simmer them with garlic, basil, and a touch of olive oil. You control the salt, or leave it out entirely. If fresh tomatoes aren't available, look for canned versions labeled "no salt added." They exist, and they're a smart choice. Add your own seasoning and you've got a heart-healthy base for soups, stews, and pasta dishes. Food is powerful. It can be quiet medicine or quiet harm, and you deserve to know the difference. When you learn to look past the label and trust how your body responds, you start to feel more in charge again. That sense of peace, that clarity, it's worth every small change. Your heart will thank you one bite at a time. Which of these foods surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear. Don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell for more tips that truly support your health. You're not alone. You're stronger than you think, and your heart deserves this care.